Coming up on Network Africa. French President, African leaders attend funeral for Chad's slain President Idriss Déby. At least 130 people feared drowned in the Mediterranean after rubber boat capsized. University of Oxford developers say a malaria vaccine has proved to be 77% effective in early trials and could be a major breakthrough against the disease. Hello and welcome to the program. I'm Teniola Shoboale. We begin with devastating news coming from Kaduna here in northern Nigeria. 3 abducted students of Greenfield University in Kaduna State have been found dead. The Kaduna State Commissioner for Internal Security and Home Affairs, Samuel Aruwan, says the bodies of the students were found in Kwanan Batude village near the university. The students were abducted on Wednesday by gunmen suspected to be kidnappers from their school along the Kaduna-Abuja highway in Kaduna State. That incident was the first major attack on communities around the Kaduna-Abuja highway since 300 female soldiers were deployed to the general area in January this year. A staff of the university was also killed by the attackers. Still in West Africa, the state funeral of Chad's long-serving president Idriss Déby has been held in the capital after he was killed by rebels. Among the foreign leaders present is France's President Emmanuel Macron, for whom Chad is a key ally in the fight against jihadists in the region. Friday's ceremony saw a military march past and a speech by Déby's son, General Mohammed, who the army has named as the country's new leader.
Foreign leaders in Chad for the funeral of slain President Idriss Déby as France backed the country's new military leaders in the face of threats from rebels to resume an offensive on the capital. The presidents of Guinea, Mali, Niger and Mauritania arrived in the capital in N'Djamena, despite warnings from the rebels that foreign leaders should not attend for security reasons. French President Emmanuel Macron was also in attendance, paying his respect to President Idriss Déby on Friday at the main square in the capital. During his tribute, he says he would not let anybody threaten Chad.
France will not let anybody put into question or threaten today or tomorrow Chad's stability and territorial integrity. France will also be there to keep alive its promises of a peaceful Chad, creating a place for all of its children and components. The transition will have this role to play: stability, inclusion, dialogue, and democratic transition. We are and will stand with you.
Thousands of people also gathered at the main square to pay their respects. Déby's son, Mohamed Idriss Déby, who took power after his father's death, and joined the world leaders in the front row as the coffin draped in the national flags of Chad arrived for the ceremony. Mohamed Idriss Déby has vowed to stay loyal to the memory of his father. General Déby also said he and his family would continue the legacy of dialogue, forgiveness, peace, unity that the late president was admired for. After the ceremony in N'Djamena, Déby was moved on to be buried in his native region.
And now the African Union has condemned the extension of the term of Somalia's president, Mohamed Abdullahi Farmajo, and is sending a special envoy to Mogadishu to help resolve the political deadlock there. The AU's Peace and Security Council made the announcement after hours of closed-door meeting, where it also resolved to mediate in the crisis. A communique issued after the session on Thursday urged all parties in the country to immediately resume dialogue on the basis of the September 2020 agreement. The agreement, signed by Somalia's federal government and regional leaders, as well as opposition parties, offered a roadmap to holding free and fair elections. Last week, Mr. Famajo controversially approved an extension of his term in office by 2 years, but the move has been criticized by major world powers, including the United States and Britain, the United Nations and the EU. At least 130 migrants are feared to have drowned off the coast of Libya after a rubber boat capsized at sea. French humanitarian organization SOS Mediterranean says a search in the Mediterranean Sea for boats packed with migrants has found 10 bodies floating near a capsized rubber boat that was believed to have been carrying 130 people. Spokesperson for the charity says another wooden boat was still missing with about 40 migrants aboard. The civil hotline alarm phone had reported 3 boats were in distress on Wednesday, prompting the charity to launch a search in very rough seas with up to 6-meter waves. 3 merchant vessels helped the charity's own rescue ship, Ocean Viking, search for the boats in international waters northeast of the Libyan city of Tripoli. The UN's World Food Programme says that an attack last month on the town of Palma in northern Mozambique has caused tens of thousands to flee the area, adding to a growing humanitarian crisis. Dozens of people were killed in the 5-day assault by jihadists, and about 50,000 people have been displaced, some to remote areas. Many are said to also be facing severe hunger. The WFP says many lack proper shelter, and malnutrition among children is on the rise, with close to 1 million people affected by the conflict in the northern region.
What we know is that people have been walking for days, some as many as 5-6 days. They've hidden in the bush, again without food and water, just escaping with what they have. So when they're arriving in places, looking for safety, looking for shelter, they are hungry, they are tired, and they are traumatized by what they've also witnessed. So for WFP, it's important that we get our immediate response rations to them as quickly as possible. And this is food that will last them for about 15 days. That's rice, that's oil, beans, sardines, and water.
More than 92,000 refugees have sought safety in the Democratic Republic of Congo in the past 4 months, according to local authorities, following post-election violence in the Central African Republic. As of April the 22nd, UNHCR had registered over 52,000 refugees, and registration is still continuing. The UN High Commissioner for Refugees, Filippo Grandi, visited DRC and met with refugees in the remote area of the country marked by the Ubangi River.
Here are many Central African refugees that have been fleeing for the last few months from violence and brutal violence in their communities in the Central African Republic following the election. I've met many of them. The refugees are scattered along the border, and many of them wish to move further away to a safer and more supported area, such as here in Mudale, where we are helping. We're building structures. UNHCR and its partners are building structures to receive refugees and to ensure, for example, that the children can go to school using local structures, existing schools for the local community. So it's really an inclusion effort that we are carrying out here. We don't want to create a camp. We want to create a place of inclusion for the time during which refugees have to wait here before the situation improves in their country, and then they go back.
To health matters now, some promising news as developers from the University of Oxford say a malaria vaccine has proved to be 77% effective in early trials and could be a major breakthrough against the disease. Malaria kills more than 400,000 people a year, mostly children in sub-Saharan Africa. But despite many vaccines being trialled over the years, none has met the required target for success. The researchers say the vaccine could have a major public health impact. When trialled in 450 children in Burkina Faso, The vaccine was found to be safe and showed high-level efficacy over 12 months of follow-up. Larger trials in nearly 5,000 children between the ages of 5 months and 3 years will now be carried out across 4 African countries to confirm findings. Some updates on the COVID-19 pandemic now. The WHO Regional Office for Africa is calling on high-income countries to share their supplies of COVID-19 vaccines with African countries, as limited supplies are constraining vaccination efforts on the continent. A total of 41 African countries have obtained more than 18 million doses of vaccines through the global COVAX program. But vaccine rollout efforts are being hampered by systemic obstacles to distribution on the backdrop of rising coronavirus cases. WHO Regional Director for Africa, Matshidiso Moeti, says she's concerned as some countries have used up all their COVAX doses and will need to receive follow-up doses.
I'm concerned that 7 countries have now used up all of their COVAX doses and will need to receive follow-up doses from early May to mid-June. WHO and COVAX partners continue to engage in intensive negotiations to ensure that African countries will get their second doses of the vaccine in a timely manner. We also encourage countries that have not been able to use their doses and high-income countries that have vaccinated their most at-risk groups to share their supplies with the few remaining countries that have not yet received a shipment.
And now France has announced that starting Saturday, travellers from South Africa will be quarantined for 10 days. French Interior Minister said there will be strict guidelines for people arriving from South Africa, Brazil, Chile, Argentina and India. He said those were the countries where the pandemic was still raging. The travellers will isolate at their residence while closely being monitored by the police. South Africa has the most cases in Africa, with more than 1.5 million virus infections, including 53,940 deaths. Away from the COVID-19 pandemic, South African President Cyril Ramaphosa is calling on developed countries to meet their climate responsibilities to developing economies. He made this call while speaking at the Climate Leaders Summit. Ramaphosa said climate aid should be provided to developing countries separately from other development assistance. The virtual Climate Change Summit, which has taken place from April the 22nd to 23rd, is hosted by U.S. President Joe Biden, who invited 40 world leaders to discuss new measures to strengthen commitments they made to reduce emissions under the Paris Climate Agreement.
It's important that aid on climate change should be provided separately and should not be part of conventional development assistance. When it is given in the form of loan financing, the debt burden of developing countries is worsened. We call on developed economies, which historically bear the greatest responsibility for emissions, to meet their responsibilities to developing economies. We are currently in the process of updating South Africa's nationally determined contribution. Our new NCD target ranges have been released for public consultation. The new target ranges we are proposing are much more ambitious in 2 respects. Firstly, the top of the 2030 range has been reduced by 28%, or 174 million metric tons, which is a very significant reduction. Second, according to our previous nationally determined contribution, South Africa's emissions would peak and plateau in 2025 and decline only from 2035. South Africa's emissions will begin to decline from 2025, effectively shifting our emissions decline 10 years earlier.
President, the floor is now to the...
Still to come on the program. Our Africa Tech segment discusses with a young programmer the prospects for girls in ICT. Please stay with us. Thanks for staying with us on the program. More countries have joined Botswana in suspending the importation of any poultry-related products from South Africa after an outbreak of a highly infectious strain of avian influenza was found in chickens at a Johannesburg farm last week. Our South Africa Bureau Chief, Betty Libya, has the story.
First, there was an outbreak of African swine flu at a farm in Potchefstroom in the Northwest Province. Now South Africa is dealing with avian flu recorded at a commercial farm in the East Rand in Johannesburg.
The farm concerned has very responsibly decided to cull the entire flock, which is 240,000 hens, and they have been taken away to be buried as per the state animal health department. The eggs that have been produced on that farm are in retention at the moment, and we will make a decision, or they will make a decision as to what to do with those eggs over the next day or two.
South Africa is a member of the World Organization for Animal Health, and avian flu is a sensitive issue. Already some neighboring countries have placed a ban on poultry products from South Africa.
We are negotiating with those countries, and we are hoping that trade will resume in no time. We are dealing with a highly pathogenic avian influenza, H5N1. Avian influenza is a trade-sensitive disease, and most countries suspend trade with countries that report cases in their territory.
Namibia is at this stage treating this by compartment, so to speak, by province, by compartment, whereas Botswana and Mozambique have imposed total bans. Swaziland and Lesotho are in discussions with our national animal health director, Dr. Mpomaja, and we understand that Lesotho has banned eggs from Gauteng at this stage in time.
South Africa produces over 19 million birds weekly, and poultry production is the largest product sector in the country's agricultural industry. Working with the Poultry Association, the Department for Agriculture has encouraged them to improve biosecurity at the farms, like limiting contact of their birds with wild birds, which transmit avian flu, among other vectors.
We are also intensifying our surveillance, still working with the Poultry Association, and all mortalities of wild birds are being taken to the laboratory to confirm or to rule out avian influenza as the cause of death. That gives us an early warning system so that we can know in which areas the infection is likely to have moved to.
The government has assured the public that measures are in place to ensure quality and safety is not compromised in any way. Hopefully the trade partners will be assured as well, and the hurt to the sector will be minimized. From Johannesburg, South Africa, Betty Libya, Channels Television News.
Welcome to our Africa Tech segment. This week, the International Girls in ICT Day was celebrated to encourage more girls and young women to take up education in STEM fields and actively pursue careers in STEM to bridge the gender-digital divide. While girls across the world tend to outperform boys in reading and writing skills, they continue to be underrepresented in science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. For girls to be competitive and thrive in the future job market, there will be a need to change the skills they are taught and an intentional effort to improve gender equity. Well, 12-year-old Emanuela Mayaki, a young programmer, joins us to share her experience in the ICT world. Welcome to the show, Emanuela. And firstly, I just want to say well done to you on all your achievements. You're doing amazing.
Thank you.
So just talk to us with how you got into technology.
So it all started when I was 6 years old. I always jumped on every opportunity to use my dad's electronics, and that disrupted him from his work. So because of that, my dad got me my first laptop. And when it was the holidays, the summer holidays, I was supposed to go to school for extra lessons, but my parents thought that I shouldn't just dump the laptop that they bought me and only use it to play games. So they thought I should do something productive with it. So instead of going for summer lessons, I went to my first computer class. So that's how it all started.
So obviously you seem very passionate about tech. How has the experience been for you so far?
The first computer course I went to was on basic training, how to use a computer system. After that, I moved on to desktop publishing. I got 2 certificates from those courses. And in 2017, when I was 8, I learned web design and built my first website in that same year, and unveiled it when I turned 9 in January the next year. That was 2018. In 2018, furthermore, I studied web development, graphics design, and mobile app development. That was for 2018. In 2019, when I was in the UK, I went to Funtech to learn Python and Java. So in 2020, I took a break. I had to focus on my academics, school stuff, and lots of other things I had to do. But currently, I signed up for some courses on Udemy. They're based on Python for data science and machine learning, virtual reality, augmented reality, deep learning, C#, and Unity game development.
Wait, what would you say you enjoy most about being a young girl in technology?
What I enjoy most? Well, would I say I kind of brag a lot about being a girl in technology. So when some of the boys in my class, when they talk about technology, when they talk about laptops and how it's like, how they play games on it, I just feel like, really, do you know how those games are made? Like people like me, programmers, we make these things and then they play these games without actually knowing how they are made. So I'm actually quite proud of myself that sometimes people like me, people have to depend on us for their entertainment and stuff.
Yeah, that's amazing. And you should be proud of yourself because that is amazing. But looking around you in the sector, do you think there's enough girls like you, enough girls that are programmers like you?
Absolutely not. I was actually really shocked considering the first programmer was a woman. That was Ada Lovelace. In the recent survey in 2020 last year, men account for 91.5% of developers and 8% are just women. Well, that's a really huge gap and we need to step up our game. We need not only be in things like healthcare, but we also need to increase the number of women in technology. And it starts by training our young girls today and now.
You know, obviously, your parents, were very supportive of you, getting you your first laptop, even though you were using theirs at first for games and stuff. But what would you say to other parents out there? You know, some people are a bit skeptical. You know, most parents want their kids to go into, like, medicine, be doctors, be lawyers. What would you say to parents out there to encourage them to get their kids into tech?
Well, a lot of parents think that girls may turn into tomboys and boys may deviate from more important stuff. Like obviously they're going to be the name carrier of the family, but it's just like people always tend to differentiate boys from girls and try to say that there's some things that girls should do, some things that boys should do. But I think that we all need to we can do the same thing, and there's nothing that both of the genders cannot do. So as children, they try to stop us from doing things that we're growing up with it. So I don't think you can try to bring us back into your era because you're maybe jealous or something.
Right. All right, then, 12-year-old Emanuela Mayaki, who's a programmer. Your future is definitely bright. Keep doing the good work. And thank you so much for speaking to us on Network Africa.
Thank you for having me.
And that's the program today. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Tenyola Shoboale. Have a lovely weekend.